V'yikwei lecha shemen zay zach, ultimately lalos ner tamid. We are told in this week's Parshat to take pure olive oil. Ultimately, it is to cause a bright flame to rise up, a permanent flame. We understand that there's a juxtaposition between the light of the menorah and the light of the Torah. Indeed, the Gemara tells us that one who sees olive oil in a dream should hope to see the light of the Torah. And the Medrash takes the relationship further and points out that one who has Torah is as one who has light, and one who does not have the light of Torah, such a person unfortunately will stumble. And interestingly, the Medrash points out two examples. One example is of the individual who trips over a stone because they do not see it in the darkness, and the other is of one who stumbles into a pit. The question is obvious. Why is it necessary to have two examples? We understand that if it's dark, people fall. Why does the Medrash have to give an example of somebody who trips over a stone and somebody who falls into a pit? In Mesilas Yesharim, Moshe Chaim Lucato, famous ethicist, points out on the basis of a pasuk in Tehillim that there are two major forms of darkness. There is the darkness that prevents one from seeing, the darkness that causes one to trip over a stone, and maybe even to fall into a pit, and sometimes that stumbling can be fatal. And then there is the darkness that leads people to not perceive properly. One looks at what's actually a pillar and thinks it's a person, or vice versa. And the Mesilas Yesharim stresses that the second form of darkness is far worse. And that's because when it comes to the first kind of darkness, let us imagine a traveler going on the way, and the traveler stumbles on a rock. The traveler realizes what it is that they tripped over. The traveler realizes that if I'm not careful, I'm going to continue to stumble in the dark over stones, and maybe I should wait until the light of day. But the one who misperceives, the one who thinks that a pillar is a person and a person is a pillar, doesn't stop on his way. That person is convinced that they are seeing what is correct. And therefore that person is at much greater risk. And the lesson is obvious for us. That sometimes a person stumbles over a stone and a person realizes, I have stumbled. I have scratched myself, and I should recognize not to walk in this path again, not to walk in such a dark place, to benefit from illumination. That's one kind of darkness. But the Medrash was more concerned about the person who fails to perceive and falls into a pit. The person who can't make out the difference between reality and perception. And that challenge is a challenge that holds true in our time as well. That all too often, people mistake perception for reality. And yes, on a subjective level, it's true that a person's perception is their reality. And yes, when we deal with people, we have to be sensitive to them, we have to be empathetic, and we have to understand that sometimes a person's perception is indeed their reality. However, we as individuals have an obligation to spend some time to try to make sure that the things that we think are realities, are they indeed real? Are the things that we think are really important, are they really the most important things in the world? Or maybe, we're not seeing things in the most enlightened way possible. It would behoove us to make sure that our decisions, that our thinking, that they are illuminated by the path of Torah, that they direct us in ways to make clear and appropriate decisions so as not to confuse light with dark and right with wrong. May we be blessed to see the rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash, and may we benefit from the illumination of its menorah. B'mehera v'yameinu, amen.